In a quiet town in Germany, a little boy named Albert Einstein was born. From the very beginning, he was a little different from the other children in his neighborhood. While babies his age were starting to babble and say their first words like mama or dada, little Albert remained silent. His parents, Herman and Pauline, waited patiently, but the words just didn't come. For a long time they worried about their quiet son. They wondered if he would ever speak at all. His younger sister Maya even gave him a nickname, der Depperte, which meant the dopey one, because he seemed so slow to catch on to the things that came easily to others. When Albert finally did begin to speak, it was in a very peculiar way. He would whisper every sentence to himself first, almost as if he were practicing the words in his mind before letting them out into the world. This often made him seem hesitant and even more different from the chatty, boisterous children around him. He didn't enjoy the rough-and-tumble games that his classmates loved. Instead, he preferred to be by himself, lost in his own world of thoughts and daydreams. He was a solitary child, finding more comfort in the quiet corners of his mind than in the noisy playgrounds of his school. His sister later remembered that he was so quiet and thoughtful that the family housekeeper called him Brother Boring. It seemed that no one quite knew what to make of this unusual boy with the big, curious eyes. He wasn't like the other kids who ran and shouted and played together without a second thought. Albert needed time to think about everything. He would sit for hours just observing the world around him, from the way a tiny insect crawled on the ground to the way the sunlight streamed through the window. This deep, quiet observation was his favorite game, even if no one else understood it. This difference made school a difficult place for Albert. His teachers often grew frustrated with him because he didn't learn in the same way as his peers. They expected him to memorize facts and repeat them back. But Albert's mind was always asking why. He found the strict rules and rote learning of his school to be boring and stifling to his natural curiosity. One teacher even told his father that it didn't matter what career Albert chose, because he would never make a success of anything. They saw a dreamy, distracted boy, but they missed the incredible universe of ideas that was just beginning to take shape inside his unique mind. One day, when Albert was about 5 years old and sick in bed, his father gave him a gift to cheer him up. It wasn't a fancy toy soldier or a colourful ball, it was a simple magnetic compass. For most children, it might have been a moment of passing interest, but for Albert, it was a moment of pure magic. He turned the compass this way and that, watching in complete awe as the needle trembled and then pointed steadfastly north no matter which way he moved the case. He couldn't see anything touching the needle, no strings or hidden gears, yet some invisible force was making it move. This was a profound mystery that sparked something deep within him. This fascination with invisible forces and how things worked extended to all sorts of mechanical toys and puzzles. His uncle Jakob, an engineer, often brought him challenging math puzzles to solve, which Albert adored. While other children were building simple towers with blocks, Albert was trying to build intricate houses of cards, some reaching 14 stories high. He loved to see how things fit together, how one part affected another, and the underlying rules that governed their construction. These weren't just games to him, they were experiments that helped him understand the secret language of the universe, a language of logic, structure, and order. His family saw this passion and did their best to encourage it, even when others did not understand. His mother, a talented pianist, taught him to play the violin. At first he disliked the discipline, but he soon discovered a deep connection between the structured harmony of music and the mathematical order of the universe. Playing Mozart and Beethoven became another way for him to think. He would often play his violin when he was stuck on a difficult scientific problem, letting the music help him untangle the complex ideas swirling in his head. The melodies helped him find a new kind of clarity. This combination of curiosity, music, and a love for puzzles set him on a path that was uniquely his own. He wasn't just learning what was taught in books, he was teaching himself how to think. He started to question everything, even the long-held beliefs of famous scientists. He wondered what it would be like to ride on a beam of light, a question that would later become central to his greatest theories. While his teachers saw a disobedient student who wouldn't follow instructions, his family saw a budding genius who was simply trying to find his own way to understand the world's deepest secrets. As Albert grew older, his passion for science and mathematics blossomed into a powerful force. After finishing his studies in Switzerland, he found it difficult to get a job as a teacher or a professor. The same teachers who had found him frustrating in school were now the ones who might have offered him a position, and they remembered his rebellious spirit. So he took a humble job as a clerk in a patent office in Bern. This might have seemed like a setback, but for Einstein it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. His work involved reviewing the inventions and new ideas of other people, which kept his mind sharp and engaged with practical problems. The job was not too demanding, which left Albert with plenty of time to think. And think he did. During his breaks and in the evenings after work, he would sit with his pencil and paper and explore the fantastic ideas that filled his mind. He wasn't in a fancy laboratory with expensive equipment. His laboratory was his own imagination. It was during this time, in 1905, that he had what is now called his miracle year. In just a few months, this unknown patent clerk wrote 4 groundbreaking papers that would forever change the way we see the universe, touching on everything from the nature of the light to his famous equation E=mc². This incredible burst of genius showed the world what his family had seen all along. Albert's mind was extraordinary. He had a unique ability to perform thought experiments where he would imagine complex scenarios and follow them to their logical conclusions. This is how he developed his theory of relativity. He imagined clocks ticking at different speeds and measuring sticks changing their length, all depending on how fast you were moving. These ideas were so revolutionary that many older scientists found them hard to believe at first. But Albert's gentle persistence and the sheer elegance of his logic slowly won them over. His fame grew, and soon he was no longer a patent clerk, but a celebrated professor at universities across Europe. He was finally recognized as the genius he was. But even with all the awards and accolades, he remained a humble and curious person. He was still the boy who was fascinated by a simple compass, always asking why, and never being satisfied with an easy answer. His work showed that the universe was a much stranger and more wonderful place than anyone had ever imagined, a place where time and space were not fixed but could bend and stretch like fabric. Albert Einstein's genius was not confined to the abstract world of physics and mathematics. As he became one of the most famous people on the planet, he used his voice to speak up for what he believed was right. He had experienced prejudice himself, and he felt a deep sense of responsibility to stand up for others who were treated unfairly. He understood that a brilliant mind was a gift, but a kind heart was what truly mattered. He cared deeply about people and believed that science should be used to help humanity, not to harm it. He saw the world as one big family, and he worried about its future. When he saw the rise of a hateful government in his home country of Germany, he knew he had to leave. He moved to the United States and became a citizen. But he never forgot the importance of peace and freedom. He spoke out against war and nationalism, believing that people should see themselves as citizens of the world, not just of one country. He knew that the same scientific discoveries that could power cities could also be used to create terrible weapons. This knowledge weighed heavily on him, and he spent much of his later life advocating for international cooperation and the peaceful resolution of conflicts. Einstein was more than just a scientist. He was a great humanitarian. He answered letters from children who wrote to him with questions about science and life. He played his violin at charity concerts to raise money for those in need. He wasn't a remote, unfeeling genius living in an ivory tower. He was a warm and compassionate person who laughed, worried, and hoped just like everyone else. He famously said, "Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile." He truly lived by these words, showing that his immense intellect was matched by an equally immense heart that cared for the well-being of all people. This is why we remember Albert Einstein as having a truly beautiful mind. It wasn't just because he was smart enough to unlock the secrets of the cosmos. It was because his brilliance was combined with a profound sense of wonder, a deep well of kindness, and an unwavering commitment to making the world a better place. He showed us that the greatest minds are not those who just think complex thoughts, but those who use their gifts to serve humanity. His legacy is not only in his equations, but also in his example of a life filled with curiosity, courage, and compassion for all.